week. There won't be any coverage on the Cup game this week unless something, well, equally amazing or drastic happens at home to Doncaster in the EFL Cup.
It is Tom Nixon. It is 4-0. And Doncaster have ripped Middlesbrough apart.
I really should have known better, shouldn't I? Boro absolutely thumped and knocked out of the Carabao Cup in embarrassing fashion. What is up, guys? Welcome back to, well, an episode of Project Boro I wasn't planning on doing because, silly old me, I thought that this would be a relatively uneventful Carabao Cup tie. I wasn't sure which way it was going to go, but stupid old me did not expect it to go in a very similar way to what the home game against Stoke in the Cup last season went. Boro were dreadful, and they were absolutely battered. And arguably even worse, albeit the scoreline not as bad as what the Stoke game was last season. Doncaster Rovers, a League 2 side who were champions last season, into League One, newly promoted, rested their entire starting 11, made 11 changes for this game, absolutely battered a Boro side that, yes, had a few changes, but was still, I'd say, a decent, strong championship side. And this was an embarrassing result, an absolutely embarrassing result. And I think following the weekend, we weren't great at home to Swansea, but we got the job done. There was positive signs, even though we were poor offensively. We were resolute at the back, really solid. We managed the game well. We took a chance when it came. This was hopefully a game where we could improve on them other areas. We could still keep that solidity. We could improve offensively. And it would be a great opportunity for some of the players to get used to this new system. And we'd just see some form of progress from the weekend. But it was the complete opposite. This was bad. Really, really bad. I mean, we'll have a look at the lineup. First of all, there were some changes. But still, as I say, a team that wasn't all that bad. Tom Glover was brought in between the sticks. The back three, you could say, still a back three that would start at some point in the Championship this season, you'd imagine. Britain was, of course, given another start to allow him to get up to match fitness and get used to playing in this system at Boro. McCormick was on the left-hand side, a completely different midfield with Lorne McCabe and Abdoulaye Kante in there. The front three was exactly the same as it was at the weekend, and again, I was hoping that would help them build on the weekend, help them continue to adapt to this new style of play, improve, but it was anything but. We were absolutely terrible. We got the absolute runaround in the first half. I can't recall the last time I saw a Boro side look so utterly disjointed. You know, up front, we offered absolutely nothing. It was just so easy for Doncaster. I mean, firstly, we were just really bad in possession. We turned over the ball so many times, and because the midfield was really poor in the first half. Whenever we lost the ball, the turnover was huge, and they were just in behind every single time. They just had a free run at our back three or back five. Every single time we'd turn the ball over, which was happening way too often. So because the midfield was so poor, the back three was just getting attacked time and time and time again. And we were offering absolutely nothing going up the other way because, again, like against Swansea, the attack is so far from the midfield. We're trying to play balls from the back, pinging them into the 10s, pinging them into Tommy Conway. They're not sticking, first and foremost. And again, I'm looking at Tommy Conway in this system. I just don't see this forward, this more physical, hold the ball up, link the play centre forward that Rob Edwards is trying to get him to play. It just isn't suiting him at all. You know, he's playing with his back to goal a lot. And the 10s were just terrible. They just didn't work again at all. Delano Bergzorg and Morgan Whittaker showed no progression, no improvement at all from the Swansea game. In fact, they were arguably even worse, to be honest. And because there was just nothing up front, we weren't holding the ball up, we weren't keeping possession, we were just giving it away and inviting pressure time and time again. Every time they'd win the ball back, bang, they would attack us. Transition, quick, into our defensive third, and we were just getting attacked from all sides. And the first 20 minutes was horrendous, to be honest with you. And, you know, huge credit to Doncaster Rovers. I know they've had a very good start to the season. Obviously, they're up as champions. They brought a brilliant number of fans who were loud, and they backed them, and they were absolutely outstanding. And I guess the biggest compliment I can give is if you dropped down from another planet and you were telling an alien which one of these two sides, one was the Championship side, one was the side of just being promoted in League One, they wouldn't have told you it was the way around that it actually is. It would have been Doncaster, the Championship outfit. Boro looked not even League One, League Two at best. It was really, really poor. Nothing was working in the first half. We were just conceding chances galore, terrible in possession, and Doncaster punished us. They really, really did. I mean, the first goal was a cross from one side. The ball was put back into the middle. I think it was cut back, and then the shot was deflected through a number of bodies. So not a great goal to concede, but it was by far not one of the worst of the night. The second was particularly bad because from the left-hand side, they had so much room to cross the ball in. It was absolutely criminal. So much time to cross the ball in. Really badly dealt with, again, by Boro's defence. And yeah, it was sort of topped off by a shot that was going wide that was ended up deflected into the back of our own net by Alfie Jones, resulting in an own goal. So 2-0 down. It was a really bad first half. The wing-backs, considering the emphasis on playing with wing-backs, we didn't utilise them at all. I can't recall a single time the wing-backs received the ball high up the field, got down the sides, advanced at all into Doncaster's defensive third. So because we didn't have anything in terms of width, we didn't offer anything down the sides. Everything we were trying to do was going central. The midfielders weren't having any offensive impact on the game at all. They weren't driving forward. They were just passing the ball off. And the front three just weren't gelling at all. So it was just a disaster. The whole thing from back to front was a disaster. And as I say, the one thing I guess you can rely on, or we thought we could rely on from the weekend, was a strong defence. But the defence was absolutely all over the place as well. And the level to which we were allowing them to play the ball through us, get down the sides, cross the ball in freely, it was just not good enough at all. We did start to carve a few chances. Second half especially, we did bring on the big guns and we certainly improved. But what I will say is we were so wasteful in front of goal. Delano Bergzorg wasn't shown in the highlights, and it's probably for good reason because it was a shocker. Had a 1v1 first half that he completely missed the target with. It was an embarrassing effort. Him and Whittaker just had chance after chance that they just kept spurning. Tommy Conway was barely in the game at all, as I say. It's a worry because he's a very good player, one I rate very, very highly, but at the minute, he's just being ruined by this system, quite honestly. As I say, back to goal, the creativity has dropped off a cliff with this Boro side at the moment, so the chances we did have between Bergzorg and Whittaker were just spurned. And even though I thought we were building up a decent spell, decent momentum, second half, we were keeping the ball. We brought Hackney on, we brought Morris on, among others. We were keeping the ball a lot better. The tempo was much better in the second half, and we were certainly pinning them back into their half. We still weren't hurting them all that much. They were happy to sit back in a low block and just defend, cut off the passing lanes, and even though Boro went 4-2-4, brought the better players on, we looked better on the ball. We looked much tidier, much quicker, much slicker. You'd expect that against a League One side. We still didn't exactly hurt them. We still didn't create anything that you could say was massively, massively clear-cut. And they then just hit us with a sucker punch in the second half. Alfie Jones completely misjudging the header, allowed it to bounce over his head. Molyneux crossed it in, or put it across goal, and I think it was Potts who pulled it back and put it right into the bottom corner to make it 3. And when most of the Riverside had left, they made it 4. I don't even know what goal it was. I think they'd hit the post not long before that as well. They'd hit the post, Ironside missed a sitter to make it 4. I think that was from a flick on in a corner. They had another big chance in the first half, by the way, which should have been 3. A cross coming again, way too much space allowed for the cross to come in. I don't know who it was at the back post. I don't know why Tom Glover didn't come for the ball. He left the cross. They missed an open goal at the back post. But yeah, the fourth wasn't much better. That was another really shocking goal to concede. So even though the performance second half was better, there is absolutely no excuse going down 4-0 to a side, no disrespect, who've just come up to League One. Now, Doncaster, as I say, were outstanding. Absolutely outstanding. And I think it's damning on Boro that they rested their entire 11 in that first half, and they still absolutely destroyed us. And there were certain huge red flags and reasons to be concerned after that performance. And I think what this has done is it has brought back all of the concerns and worries that Boro fans had coming into this season. They were sort of quietened after the Swansea game, hoped to build on that, but this was a massive reality check, a huge bump back down to earth as to where we are currently, and that Boro are in a very interesting, precarious position right now because, as we all know, we have brought in a manager who wants to play with a 3. He wants to completely change the formation of this team. It requires completely different personnel, and especially up front, it is so different. It's not clicking at all. My big keyword is continuity, and I was hoping that we would take what we did well before, carry it into this season, and improve in other areas. And I'm not too sure that's happening. I expected a regression in terms of how good we'd be going forward because Michael Carrick's Boro was so offensively focused and they left the back door open so often. So obviously there was going to be an adjustment so that we would be better at the back and we'd have to sacrifice some offensive output. But I was happy to do that. Happy to do that if it meant we were a more balanced side. But, again, it's only a 2-game sample size, so it's probably too early to make a full judgment as yet. But just looking at this game in its own isolated place, this offered up multiple big red flags, multiple warning signs that Boro need to decide quickly what we're going to do here. Because, as I say, I was hoping for continuity, and the only way you can build a squad for promotion is if you carry that continuity through from one season to the next. Minimises the squad turnover, it minimises the number of players you need to bring in, and I would have liked to have hoped we'd have took the 4-2-3-1 from last season. The system we've recruited for, by the way, for years. We've invested so much time and money in playing a certain way for so long now, and the mantra and the remit coming out of the club was that we play the Middlesbrough way, the manager fits into Middlesbrough way, the players fit into Middlesbrough way, and yet we've done the complete opposite. Seemingly, we're going for a completely different system, a completely different style, with completely different personnel, and shock, the current squad aren't taken to it as well as they would. Now, they might eventually, but how long are we willing to wait for this squad to adjust to Rob Edwards' style of play? Or do we have to do something that we've been doing for the last decade, and that is massively overhaul the squad, basically try and shoehorn the players we've already got here into a system they weren't brought in for in the first place, and then invest a ton in new players that will be brought in to fit this system. So then you're going to have a really bad mix of players that were here before to play this way and players that we're having to bring in now to play another way. And you're trying to mix that together, and it just screams of Boro going through the same cycle we've been going through for a decade. It's the reason why we've been in the Championship for so long. When we went from Monk to Pulis to Woodgate, Woodgate to Warnock, Warnock to Wilder, Wilder to Carrick. It's just constant change, constant rebuild, constant rip it up, start again. You're never going to build a house if halfway through when you're putting the bricks together you go, actually, no, I don't like the look of this house. I don't like how many bedrooms. I don't like if it's detached, semi-detached. I don't like how it is. It's not working for me. You knock the whole thing down. You start again. You're never going to build a house by doing that. And all the best teams in this league are building with a set style of play, a set identity in mind. So every season they can just add to it, no matter who the manager is, and they will build towards promotion. And over time, you will eventually assemble a squad that is so used to playing a certain style, with players coming in that are just better and better and better to play it. You will improve, you will develop, you will grow eventually. Boro just aren't doing that. We are stuck in the same cycle we've been in for a decade, and it's happening again. This is a clear sign that it's happening again. We're going to once more have to try and force players in to a system that they weren't brought into play in the first place. We're then going to have to spend a lot of money and time to bring in additions to try and mould it all together. We don't have time. I don't think the coaching team are going to be afforded time, because the feel I'm getting is that Boro fans are starting to lose patience. They're starting to really look above the manager and wonder, is the issue above? Why we are constantly going around in this same cycle, and we don't have the money to overhaul this squad in the way that it's needed. So you've got to ask the question of if we knew we were going to have to come into this season with Edwards playing a different way, with wing backs that we need to sign. We didn't have any wing backs when he came in. A more physical centre forward, which we don't have. Players that we're going to have to try and force into these number 10 positions. If we knew we were going to have so much change and so much of an overhaul and so much work that needs doing, and Edwards was going to need so much investment to shape this team in the manner that he needs it to be in, to be effective, then why did we do it in a summer where we clearly had no money and we needed to sell players before we could buy them? There's so many things and decisions that this club have made that just don't marry up for me at the moment. And again, this is only a small sample size. It is only a cup game. I'd much rather this happen in a cup game than a league game. And I do hope that they'll learn from the issues in this game and ensure they don't happen in a league game. It could be a blessing that it's happened in the cup and not the league. But I will say this, rest assured, if this does happen in the league, 4-0 will look generous compared to what might happen to us in the Championship. So yeah, a real blow, a real kick in the gut, a real reality check and a bump back down to earth, I would say, following what was actually quite a positive weekend. There was nothing positive about this. Doncaster were brilliant, and there were just so many players in this system that just weren't working. And now they've got to either double down on the Edwards style of play and bring him in the players that he needs to make the system work, which, as I say, will take time, will take money, or he needs to compromise and mould Boro more into the team that we were before, in a 4-2-3-1 that's maybe a little bit more defensively solid, because, as I say, a lot of the players we've brought in over the last few years were brought into play system that we're now no longer playing anymore. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about individuals then, because there weren't many great performances, and a lot of the players that were given a chance very much did not take it. Tom Glover, shipping in 4 goals, didn't look reassuring at all between the sticks. I think he could have done better with the third. Yeah, the second he couldn't help because it deflected straight off of Alfie Jones, but conceding 4 goals is not a good look. And, I think as a backup goalkeeper, he is just not good enough for Boro. And yeah, it's not good. It's not a good look for a backup goalkeeper. That's all I will say for Tom Glover. The back three were a real disappointment. As I say, this is a back three you'd assume would actually be likely to play in the Championship this season, but they were all over the place, ran ragged by Doncaster, and a couple of errors that were made in the lead up to a few of the goals, didn't look good on the back three. But what I will say, to the credit of the back three, is the midfield did not help. It was so easy to bypass the midfield. Once we turned the ball over, the midfield was basically not there, and the Doncaster's attack has just had a free run at Boro's back three. So I do feel sorry for them in that manner, because the midfield was that bad. And that leads me on to midfield too, because McCabe and Kante did not work. Now, what I will say is when we brought in Morris and Hackney, it was much better. And I think what Edwards should have done, in hindsight, is he should have either went with McCabe or Kante and played Hackney or Morris alongside them, because the pair of them together didn't work. They were really poor in possession. I think Kante still did really well chasing the ball down, winning it back at times, but in terms of keeping the ball, passing it on, there was no creativity, no drive from midfield at all. And when we did lose the ball, as I say, the midfield was not there to shield the back three. They were just bypassed, gone in the rear view mirror. The wing backs were massively disappointing. Again, second half it was better. Callum Britton got a bit higher up the pitch, did start to put crosses into the box. Sadly, we had Bergzorg in the middle, so there wasn't exactly a striker to get on the end of them at that point. McCormick, though, didn't do himself any favours, unfortunately. He offered us pretty much nothing down that left-hand side, and the crying calls for our left wing back are louder than ever. He certainly didn't do himself any favours on the left-hand side. And as I've alluded to, the 10s didn't work, and Conway was basically anonymous. And I do think maybe Edwards needs to start looking at this front three, and he maybe needs to shift it around. Now, at Luton, he did play with 1-10 and 2 strikers. Maybe it would help Conway if he had more support up top with a more physical striker, because he does ask a lot of his centre-forwards to hold the ball up and play with their back to goal. That's not Conway's game. For me, I really liked against Deportivo when he was more of a poacher in the box. We've not seen any of that since. And if the wing-backs aren't going to get down the sides and aren't going to be effective, then it's pointless having Tommy Conway in the box as a poacher, because all he's doing is playing with his back to goal and trying to link up play, and that's just not his game. If we had a more physical striker alongside him who could win them aerial duels, could hold the ball up, you could have Conway playing off him and actually running in behind and giving their defence something to worry about. But if we keep playing with the way we are with the 2-10s, that's not going to happen, because the 2-10s, it's just not working. But the issue we've got, as I say, and it comes back to that argument again, the squad's not fit to play this way. We've got so many players who should or could play in them 10 positions. We've got no strikers. So even if we wanted to switch it up, we don't have the personnel to do that. So again, I'm just at a loss, and it just all keeps coming back to that one big issue that we all had going into the season. Me and Chris discussed it. Every single championship podcast, every neutral has discussed it. The big, big, big red flag was that not Rob Edwards' ability, not him as a coach. It was the question mark of this squad does not fit the way Rob Edwards needs to play or wants to play. And that was massively apparent in this game. So we can only hope that in the window we double down and bring in the players in that will allow him to play the way he wants more effectively. And then we just need to hope it clicks quickly, because I don't think he will be afforded time. And more importantly, I don't think the people above him will be afforded the time to allow this to work. Boro fans want instant success, and so they should. With the money that we pay, the expectations, if the expectations were playoffs last season, why shouldn't they be this season? So for me, yeah, they need to find a way of making it work quickly, or he needs to compromise and head back to what we were doing more of last season and see if he can find a happy medium. If you look at the stats, they looked more even, but you can see how wasteful Boro were. We both had 18 shots, we both had 5 on target. Theirs were a lot more high quality when you compare the XG. We gave 1.9 XG to a team in League One, which is shocking. We only mustered barely 1 XG, and the chances we did have, we absolutely fluffed. So yeah, this was a damning reality check back down to earth. And, well, I did record my Project Boro preview for Millwall before this. Yeah, it might have been different had I, but the remit is the same. If we play like this against Millwall, it will be ugly. It will be really ugly, and it's a big few days for Rob Edwards to try and learn from what went wrong and ensure it doesn't happen again in the Championship, because, don't get me wrong, if we have a good result and a good performance at the weekend, this result will be forgotten about very quickly. But if we don't, it will be magnified, and that's when questions will start to get asked, and Boro fans will start losing their patience early doors. And that's the last thing this team, this coach, this manager needs. So yeah, I'm not going to overreact too much. This is a cup game, and I wouldn't have minded going out of the cup to anybody, to be honest. It's the way we went out that was the big, big concern. We need to make sure this doesn't happen again, and we need to make sure that there are improvements ahead of Millwall on Saturday. But as I said in my preview, which won't have dropped yet, so check that out, it will be coming out tomorrow. Millwall are ready. They're set. They've got their identity. They've got players who've been brought in to fit their identity. They are prepared. They are ready to go, and they're already off to a good start. We're all at sea, trying to plug gaps and force a style of play that the team's not used to. So God help us at the Den. I'll take a point. I'll absolutely take a point at this moment in time. So, if you were there and if you were like me, you wasted £15 of your own money to go and watch that dross, let me know in the comment section below, and just let me know your thoughts. Vent, let your opinions and your emotions out in the comment section below. And if you've enjoyed the video, do hit a like on the video, subscribe for more, and hit the bell too, so you never miss when a video drops. We do preview and review every Boro game here on the channel. We don't normally do cup games, but this seemingly has started happening in cup games of late with Boro. And yeah, leave me a comment below. You can catch this on your podcast providers as well. If you want to listen, you can go to the link tree in the description to do just that. But until next time, guys, take care. And yeah, I'll be back tomorrow to preview Millwall. God help us.